What up, and welcome back to another episode of Throwback Thursday. We're still doing The Walking Dead, but I do plan on doing other shows for this Throwback Thursday series. So The Walking Dead might not be every week, every Thursday like they are now. It might be different. But anyway, this is season 3, episode 10 or 11. I think it's 10. I'm not sure, but the episode's called Home. And watching this episode, I was actually kind of bored for the most part. And then all of a sudden, it gets good. So this episode starts out with just Rick looking through his binoculars. And the last episode, he was flipping out because he saw Lori when he was about to accept these people, Tyrese and Sasha, into the group. So he started flipping out. So now he's getting set up for the governor to attack because he's pretty sure they're going to attack because they know where they are. And all of a sudden, he's looking around with his binoculars, looking at the perimeter of the prison to see if it's secure, and he sees Lori standing out. So he goes to look for her, and he sees her standing by her grave. And at first, I didn't think it was Lori. I thought it was another actress. But then when he gets up to her, he's about to talk to her or say something. He rubs his eyes, and then when he goes to grab her, she's gone. So he starts flipping out, and the episode starts. Not so great, in my opinion, to start out the show, technically, you know. So then we're at Woodbury, and the governor finds Andrea, and he tells her that the speech she gave was great. And I was like, I don't know if he was listening to the same speech we were, because that shit sounded corny as hell in the last episode. But he says it was great, and these people need a leader. And I guess he also tells her, I don't know if I think now he comes clean about his daughter, like he thought Milton could find a cure. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's what happened. I saw this yesterday, and I was going to review this yesterday, but it was kind of late. I was excited. I'll get to that part. So I was bored for the most part. So he tells her that he wants a leader, and these people trust her, and blah, blah, blah. And then he goes to Milton and tells Milton to keep an eye on Andrea, and he wants Milton to be the eyes and ears. So we don't know what the hell the governor's thinking right now, because he's going all over the place. Andrea goes to one of the girls in Woodbury, who I think is going to end up with Tyrese in next season, if my memory serves me correct. I forgot her name, but she doesn't trust Andrea because I guess it's getting around somehow that Andrea was with Merle. She knew Merle, and she's kind of part of, that crew that came in. I don't know. I don't know if that's what it is, but it seemed like she doesn't really trust her. And then Andrea goes up to Milton and goes, "Where's the governor?" And he's like, what does he say? I don't know what he answers with a question, not with an answer, basically. Or like he seems like he's trying not to tell her too. Like he's like, out for like scavenging, looking for something on a run, like he's like, she's like, is that a question or an answer? He's like, I don't know. No, it's a question. I don't know where he is, blah, 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 blah. And then she storms off upset, and Milton's like, I'm sure he's fine. You don't have to worry about him. Then we go to Daryl and Merle, and this was the good part of the episode, I will say. It's them two trying to reconnect in a way. And Daryl is not the same person. Daryl is kind of just going along to go along with Merle when they were together, because we find out Merle left. So, but we'll find out in a little bit. But anyway, they're talking, and basically Merle's telling him, Daryl's trying to convince Merle to go back with him to the prison. And Merle's like, I can't go, blah, blah, blah. And but anyway, it doesn't matter, because by now the governor's there, and he's fucking killing all of them, and it doesn't really matter. And he's like, how can you be so sure? And then he's like, you don't know this man, like, whatever. Then they hear a scream, or a baby screaming, I think, or crying. But we don't really hear it. At least I didn't hear it. And Daryl's like, that's a baby crying, because Judith. And Merle's like, no, that's just two coons making sweet love. That's the sound of two coons making sweet love. Yeah, well, anyway, so then we really do hear the baby crying, and then Daryl goes and he sees that these people are fending off walkers on this bridge. Why they got out? I don't even know how. I don't even know how this happened. The way the cars are set up, I'm like, how the fuck did this guy get through? How did they get overrun? Why'd they get out of the car? Whatever. They're out of the car. This father and son, it seems like, they're trying to fight off walkers. They're screaming. They're Spanish. The mother is in the car with her baby, and she's trying to fend off walkers that are trying to get in through the windows. So Daryl and Merle go to help. Merle says something funny. He's like, jump. And he starts laughing, like telling the guy like to jump. Like he doesn't care about anybody. He's only in it for himself. That's what we're getting out from this episode so much, is that Merle's a selfish asshole. And Daryl's realizing that Merle's a selfish asshole. So Daryl goes to help them. And, the guys are fighting, trying to fight off the walkers. They're getting overrun again. And Daryl starts shooting his crossbow. And Merle's not doing anything. Merle's just standing there, like, watching. And he's like, why is my brother doing all this for people he doesn't know? Like, what's going on? And that's why Daryl's changed. Daryl is a good person. Daryl has been with Rick and them, and Daryl is a good human. And that's what we're seeing. And he's part of a family. He never had a family, not even with his brother. His brother's his blood, but he's never had a family. So this is a cool scene. While this happens, this whole scenario happens, and the end of it all, there's a shot where Daryl kills a walker using the door of a hatchback, and he slams it shut, and it crushes the walker's head, and that was pretty good. And then Merle goes to rob them. Merle's going through their stuff and saying, well, at least they could do is give us a burrito or something racist, because, Merle's a racist. And Daryl's just looking at these people and seeing that they have nothing and they're just trying to survive. And then he looks at his brother, and he just can't let this happen, especially because there's a baby with these people. And, so he just he tells him, like, leave it, like, drop it and let him go. He's like, you better not be pointing that weapon at me, boy. And he's like, just let him go. So they let him go. Merle doesn't say anything at this moment, but then later they get into an altercation as they're walking away, and Merle starts pushing him, and Daryl falls, and then Merle grabs him and rips his jacket or shirt and sees a tattoo on the back of Daryl. And I don't remember what the exact tattoo was or what it means, but it technically, when I first saw this, I didn't get it either. I mean, I figured it, like, I don't know. It just went over my head the first time I ever saw this. But it seems like these two were both actually abused by their father, by their father, because and the tattoo was like saying that that's his property or somebody. I think it was the father, because it has to be the father, because Daryl says something along the lines of, like, Merle sees it and he's shocked and he backs up and he's like, what the he's like, I didn't know. And he goes, how would you? You left. Like, you ran away. You left. And then Merle goes, I had to, man. I would have killed him if I didn't go. So it seems like they were both abused by their father, or somebody close to them both abused them. Now, if later on they do mention who it was or whatever, and I just forgot, I apologize. But at the moment, I didn't think it was the kind of abuse I'm actually thinking about. Like, now that I'm thinking it was, it's fucked up. And that's why we could see how Daryl actually hasn't been with a girl. I don't know if he ever does get with one later on, but we could see what the problem is there. So, and then Daryl's like, he's like, where are you going? Merle's like, where are you going? To Daryl. And he's like, we're going back to the prison. And he goes, I can't go there, man. I almost killed that girl. Like, I tried to kill her, Michonne. And that Asian boy too. Like, I can't go. Oh, he says, the Chinese kid too. I almost killed him. And he goes, he's Korean. Whatever. I forgot what Merle says. Something like whatever. I forgot what he says. Maybe he does say whatever, but it was just funny. That whole little scene was hilarious, the two of them. And basically, Daryl's like, well, you got to make it work. We go back to the prison, and this happened before this. I just cut through the whole Daryl Merle storyline right there, because it was cutting back and forth. But in this period, too, Glenn is bugging out in a way. Glenn is pissed of what happened with Maggie. Glenn knows that Rick is gone off the reservation, and Glenn is taking the leadership position. This is why Glenn was such a significant character, and a lot of people loved him. And no matter what, even if he wanted to die, if he was the one that said, like, if you're going to kill me, I want to die like he does in the comic, how Glenn dies in the comic, I don't think they should have killed Glenn. I think he should have been one of those characters that stood around for the long run. I don't know, but I don't like Negan. At least Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I'm sorry. People like him. When he ruined the show, in my opinion. That season when they come in is just it's so boring, it's so lame. And the payoff, the all-out war, which is supposed to be in the comics, was great. And it wasn't in the show. But I'm jumping ahead. So, but Glenn asserts himself as trying to be the leader, but he can't because he's still a kid and he's still emotional over what happened with Maggie. Maggie sees this and she walks away. She doesn't want to talk to him. And Glenn's like, we're not running away. This is our home now. We got to protect it. And he's like, Herschel's looking at Glenn like, Glenn, you're all over the place. This is not going to work. Like you're not the leader type. And he was just too emotional, basically. Herschel sees that he's like this, and Herschel goes to look for Rick. Carol and Axel is the guy's name. We find out more about Axel, and we find out that he was actually not in there for narcotics when he was in jail, but he was in there because he held up a store with a water gun. But the cops came to his brother's house, was where he was staying. They didn't believe him, and then they searched the brother's house, found the brother's gun, and they said that gun matched the description, so he went to jail. And he said, I didn't want to tell you guys because I didn't want you guys to think I was a violent criminal, but, whatever. Then after that, Glenn talks to Maggie. Maggie says, what do you want to hear? Do you want to know, do you want to, I forgot what Glenn tells her, but he's like, we need to do something. And she goes, do we need to, or do you need to? Like, do you need this? What do you like? Do you want to know if he raped me? You want to know he got me naked and he made me show my body to him? He bent me over. He pushed my head on the table. Do you want to know if he raped me or whatever the fuck? And Glenn's like, did he? And she's like, no, he didn't. Do you feel better now or whatever? Because she told him already, but he's just still not believing her. So she's got emotional and she hit him. And then finally, I guess Glenn got it. Like Glenn's over, not that Glenn's overreacting, because he's not overreacting, but he's being too emotional right now. And he's letting his emotions dictate his decisions, right? Or manipulate his decisions. So, or what he wants to do. So, then Herschel finds Rick. Rick's outside behind the gates, looking around. And he's like, you got to come back. We need your help. Glenn's on a warpath. He wants to fill your shoes, but he can't. He's just not ready yet. And Rick's like, well, then you lead them. I can't go back right now. And then Herschel's like, is there anything I could do? Is there anything I could do? And he's like, no, and Rick confesses to Herschel that he saw Lori. He saw something, and that it was Lori. And Herschel says, was she on the phone too? And was she the one talking to you on the phone? And he said, yeah. And then he said, I saw Shane too. He goes, you're looking for them? And he goes, waiting for them, right? And then Herschel's like, for what? And he goes, I don't know. There has to be an answer. Like, why am I seeing them or something? And Herschel's like, you're tired. You haven't slept. You come inside and rest. And then Rick's like, no, not yet. And then Rick starts walking away. And Herschel's like, So Herschel starts going back. And then we cut to Carol talking to Axel again. And Axel's talking about how inside prison, there was rules and things, and it was okay. He could live in prison better. But outside in the real world, it wasn't. He couldn't live by the real world's rules. And she's like, well, wasn't there any family you had? And he's like, my brother, but he was good for nothing, whatever. And then he starts saying something like flirting with her, and then bam, he gets shot in the head. And then this is when the episode gets fucking great. Mind you, it had a good segment with Daryl and Merle fighting with the bridge and the walkers. Great. But then it was slow and boring and slow, and nothing really happened. But then Axel's dead. He falls. Carol falls on top of Carol, or Carol he falls, and then Carol drops down because there's gunshots everywhere. Carol uses his body to protect her, and these bullets would have went through him and killed her. There's no fucking way, because Axel was a small, skinny dude, and she would have been fucking ground beef. That's what she would have been. She would have been done. But it goes through, and there's a lot of bullets that go through Axel. It keeps going, and everyone ducks. Michonne's out there. She sees the governor and some of the people from Woodbury, and they're out to fuck shit up, and they are fucking shit up. And I was like, where the fuck is Glenn? I forget what happened, why he left, but there was a segment where he was talking to Herschel, and he was upset, and Herschel was trying to educate him or tell him, like, I'm losing everybody here. I'm losing Rick. I'm losing you. I'm losing Maggie, because Maggie won't talk. Like, did you tell Maggie this, blah, blah, all this stuff. So, I don't know. I forgot why he was not around. So, shit was going crazy. Rick was on the bridge outside the prison over this little pond, this little pond, and fucking Martinez starts shooting the shit out of that. Rick has to duck. Fucking Herschel falls on the floor. He's hiding. There's just pandemonium. Everything's going crazy. And then all of a sudden this truck comes and it just smashes through the gates, and it's like an ice cream truck, and it starts going in. It goes in a circle, and then the back drops, and these walkers just start pouring out. This is crazy. Finally, Maggie kills the motherfucking sniper on top, which is great. Again, Andrea should have been part of this group. I don't know if she wanted to leave because she was having... I gotta look it up, because I know a lot of these guys wanted to leave because of everything that happened with Frank Darabont. A lot of it, that's why they killed Dale off, because Dale, the actor, is a really good friend of Frank Darabont's. Andrea, too. Carol, also, surprisingly, she stood with the show all the way. She was also one of Frank Darabont's casting choices. She was in The Mist, Frank Darabont's The Mist, and so was Andrea. So Andrea was in a bunch of stuff with Darabont, I think. I think she was in a few movies with Darabont. But anyway, so they just leave after they're getting shots back, and Michonne goes out and she starts taking out walkers, and they start dealing with the walkers after the governor is very pleased with himself of what he did. So then Rick is trying to get into the prison to help them as they're fighting off these walkers, and all of a sudden he can't. He kills one. He's out of bullets. He's stuck. There's two walkers on him. He's holding them back. They're about to kill him, and all of a sudden, boom, an arrow comes and kills one of the walkers in front of him. He drews that motherfucker down. He looks at it's Daryl and Merle, and Merle comes. He's like, ah! And this was the scene where I was like, I know it probably when it first aired, I cheered, and I know now I wanted to cheer. This was badass. This was great. This is why this show is so perfect. I mean, at the time, this was a fucking pop culture phenomenon. You don't normally get shows like when this was epic. These shows were fantastic, fan-fucking-tastic. All right, the closest series I could think. This was really like. This series was fucking great, and they just fucked it up. And there was things like this. This was epic. This was awesome. I mean, you forgot about Merle and Daryl for a while because they were fucking. They were in the middle of the episode. They were gone. And we didn't think we were going to see them now. Glenn comes back too at the same time, and he starts taking out walkers, and it was fucking great. And they're fighting together, and then at the end, after they kill the walkers that were surrounding Rick, Rick looks at Daryl, and he's like, yeah. And then he looks at Merle's like looking at him like, yeah, look, I helped. And he was like. And then he just looks at the fucking what they just did, and Rick is not happy. And Rick's gonna want fucking vengeance or something from this. So yeah, this episode is episode 10, Home. I like this episode. I didn't like it at first because it was kind of boring and nothing was happening. And I was hoping, because it started out lame with Rick looking out and seeing Lori, and then I was like, oh shit, we're getting another episode of him just looking. But the Merle and Daryl aspect was great, and that they're coming together. And then later at the end, that was fucking great. And the governor was badass, evil motherfucker, and you just saw him just shoot like he was so happy with what he just accomplished. And yeah, this was good. This was a really good episode. I really liked it, and it made me want to watch the next episode even more. And I remember when I'm not gonna talk about it. I'll talk about it when that episode comes up because I haven't watched it yet. But anyway, yes, I like this episode. This season's a good season. The first 3 seasons are fantastic. I every time, I don't know. We'll see, because I do believe there's parts of this season that I'm like, oh, fucking boring. So let's see where we get to that part. But yeah, I like this. I like this season, and this show is fucking great. Anyway, yeah. So that's The Walking Dead season 3, episode 10 for Throwback Thursday. Yeah, let me know in the comment section down below if there's any other shows you'd like me to do review for The Walking Dead. Oh, not The Walking Dead. If there's any other shows you want me to review at the bottom, any suggestions to do for Throwback Thursday, let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and I will talk to you guys next time. Peace.